Welcome back to this Live Sunday Talk Show here on the Arise News Channel. With me in the studio, I still have Professor Bola Akintenuwa, Director General, Bolitac Center for International Diplomacy and Strategic Studies, and Professor David Awurawo, Professor of International Relations and Strategic Studies at the University of Lagos. Well, gentlemen, thank you for being there for today's edition of this Live Sunday Talk Show. Let me go straight first with you, Professor Bola Akintenuwa. 4 topics on the table. Building collapse in Lagos. It happens repeatedly. Then, of course, the controversy between customs and NNPC over the amount of fuel that is stolen or that is provided or that is consumed in Nigeria. And then, of course, federal government versus ASU. And the last topic we took about INEC and security challenges and the processes leading towards the campaign season in September this month. Professor
Thank you.
Akintenuwa.
Chronologically taken, building collapse. I quite agree with Dr. Olufemi Osanyetolu, who submitted that government intervened very swiftly, promptly, and efficiently. To a great extent, I agree with him. But prompt intervention, swift intervention is a non-solution to the problem. The problem is why the recidivist character. Every time we have one building in construction or already built, collapsing. When we mentioned this issue in the past on this platform, I did suggest that the time is come for the government of Lagos State to carry out, building tests. Which building has the potential to collapse any minute from now? There should be clearance certificates. All buildings should be now certified. And this is a major responsibility. That is the only way we can be rest assured that in the foreseeable future, there will not be such problems. Every time, in spite of prompt intervention, people die. No, we should not be dying recklessly. On the issue of NNPC oil, I also agreed with the submission of our guest, Ihitu. But you see, the issue is that oil loss and oil theft can be looked at, first of all, theoretically. Oil loss is not man-made, whereas oil theft is man-made deliberately. The only thing is that there is no way that we can talk about oil theft that it will not imply an oil loss. That's the first point. You did raise the issue of mafia, Dr. Apati, and rightly too. I know that we must have a group of people, whether we call them mafia or not. The bottom line is simply that when our guest was trying to say who is responsible and he was giving us his experiences, please, the people to be held accountable are of 2 categories. One, President Muhammadu Buhari as Minister of Oil Resources in charge of NNPC. He is the minister, and he has a Minister of State acting on his behalf under his supervisory authority. But the 20, 21, or 22 topmost officials of NNPC, who all have responsibility for both security, administration, production, export, they are the people to be held responsible. There's no need engaging in hide and seek, looking for who is responsible. And you did report or educate or remind us about this heroic idol, which the NNS Dongola accosted Now reports clearly show, reports from Equatorial Guinea clearly show that the vessel has been attached. Now, for an aircraft to come to the territorial waters of Nigeria at 12 midnight, for the NNS Gongola to have asked the same vessel to come to the for further investigation, and most unfortunately, for the same naval officers to now come and tell us different story that the vessel was empty. If it was empty, why do you ask it to come to your place for further investigation? And now, you see, we need to address issues critically in Nigeria. Now, as we strike, our guest, Ahmed Sajo, raised the issue of parental involvement, university autonomy, hypocritical holding of education in Nigeria, as well as a quantum of academic staff, which he said is low. I agree with him. But you see, the problem is that in 2019, the ASU went on strike for 9 months. Now, we are said, or we are told today, we are on the 202nd day of the strike. I think that since the government of Nigeria is not ready, and is not ready to also look at the principle of federal character, which for me is directly responsible for the disregard for education. Federal character principle, which enables a 200-point student to enter university, and a 250 student, for whatever reason, will not have the opportunity. Now, when a 202-point student is employed, graduates, he manages to get out of the university, and he's now working in either Ministry of Education or Ministry of Agriculture or whatever. The better candidates have not been taken up in issue. Why would you expect them to understand or give respect to any academic? So the issue is that we are not operating on the basis of merit. This is the problem. And that is why I think that contrary to what our brother Sergio has told us, that the longer the strike, the wider the gap. My opinion is just to add that, look, the longer the strike, all right, the deepening the hostility vis-a-vis government, and as a matter of fact, the lower, the declining chances for the APC government to win election. Finally, on issue-based campaign, I think that we are not addressing the problem. You want to discuss issues. The environment, those people who are voting, majority of them, they don't bother. They don't vote because you have good ideas. Here in Nigeria, it is only people who are not in good records of doing well. They are the ones they are voting for. Okay. Here, you give them, you forget that. And this is the issue. So the environment must be made conducive, first of all, for the elite. They can understand that.
Okay, maybe at this point, Professor Akinterewa, let's bring in Professor David Awurawo so that we can still save time to take one more topic. Mikhail Gorbachev. I would like both of you, as professors of international relations, to comment on Mikhail Gorbachev. But let me come to you, Professor Awurawo. Good to see you.
Thank you. I would like to begin with ASU. And I would spend the bulk of my time discussing ASU. Because myself and many others in the university system are very concerned about the lingering strike, which is in its 7th month, after about 10 months lost in 2020. I would devote a lot of time to it because a meeting is to hold on Tuesday, which you referred to earlier, and which our guest, Dr. Sergio, commented on extensively. I want to focus on solutions to the problem. This thing has dragged on for too long. One write-up in the past week referred to the ASU strike as bringing a harvest of losses. And that is what it has been. Everybody has lost. The academics have lost. The students especially have lost tremendously. The government has lost. The system itself, everything, all sectors of Nigerian society have lost to this strike. Now, what is the way forward? The meeting of Tuesday, we don't know what the agenda is yet, but what we understand is that maybe they want the pro-chancellors and vice-chancellors to suggest ways of, getting over this strike so school can resume. If that is the intention, it is noble, and we support that wholeheartedly. There is also the possibility that they want to use the strike to say, go and open a register and let those who want to go back to classes go and sign the register and try to break the strike. If that is the intention, it is a mistake and it will not work. It has never worked before. I mean, governments have tried it over the years. It has never worked. What that has done is to further prolong the strike because it wastes another 2-3 weeks, 1 month on that before they will come back to what they ought to do, which is to face the issues and resolve them. And then regarding issues, when the minister spoke a couple of weeks ago, he said the issues have almost entirely been resolved, 80%. And the Minister of State seems to be repeating the same thing. That is not true. Let me just say a few things about the issues. One, revitalization. The idea, in 2013 was that every year 200 billion or thereabouts will be, brought into the university system for infrastructure and the rest of them. That hasn't been the case. And when the minister spoke, he acknowledged that they haven't released any money for that. They said that TED Fund has spent 1.3 trillion since the past 7-8 years or so, and that is more than the money for revitalization. But the idea about revitalization was not to be a TED Fund or revitalization. It was to be revitalization and TED Fund. TED Fund was not to be in lieu of. So it was supposed to be an addition to TED Fund, not for TED Fund to replace it. So that statement is not very correct. The government has to look for a way of injecting some money so that we can have better infrastructure. And in terms of condition of service, the committee that the government set up recommended 180% salary increase, to meet something the lowest average of Africa, because our Nigerian academics are the lowest paid in the world. That is why nobody comes to Nigeria to do sabbatical. People go to Ghana, go everywhere. Nobody comes here. And that is part of what they use to rank universities. That is why the Nigerian universities are among the first 1,000 in the world. Because when nobody comes here to, as an expert, when they are rating, the points that were supposed to score on that will not be there. And so, what did the government offer? They added 60,000 to professor salary, 30,000 to the rest. That is like 14%. And what the committee recommends is 180%. That is never going to be accepted. The government should know. How will you accept 14% when the committee recommended 180%? If you say 14%, 60,000, that means a professor that earns 416 will earn 476. That will be, just about less than half, of what is required. So the government will need to pay attention to that, increase the thing so that, we can move on. Even the list of the issues, which is that the government should release the white paper on the vision panels that went around the university in 2021, has not been done. That one does not require money, does not require anything. It just requires the government to look at the reports and then do a white paper so that we can know where each university stands. That has not been done. So the claim that 80% of the issues have been resolved, in fact, not even 10% has been resolved. So we have to be sincere. The meeting of Tuesday should look at how that agreement of June 2022 the issues will be looked at and see where we can do give and take so our children can return to school. I agree with Dr. Sraj, the point he made regarding the widening social gap between the rich and the poor, between the haves and the have-nots, and the crisis that can create for a society. I agree with him. In fact, I don't know how the minister and the minister of state how they sleep with a generation being, almost lost to this issue. I don't sleep well myself. I reflect on this and say, how can we disappoint our children like this? So the Tuesday meeting should advise government to go and take another look at that agreement of June 2022, and then see how those things they claim they have resolved, which are not resolved, can be looked at again, and then we can forge ahead. That is it about the strike. Maybe I should make a few comments on, do we still have time? Or we go to Gorbachev straight?
Well, which other subject, if you could do that in less than a minute?
Okay. I would like to comment on the oil theft thing, because that too is very dear to my heart. And of course, it is also critical to our collective survival as Nigerians. The issue of whether oil theft and oil loss, the attempt to explain here and there, I think it's academic. It is true there is oil loss. It is also true there is oil theft, and that the oil theft is extensive. What can we do, to address the issue? That's it. The chief of naval staff that spoke of the dichotomy also admitted that ship that came, that super tanker, could carry 3 million barrels of oil per day, and that when the Navy accosted it, he refused to stop. Rather, he ran to Equatorial Guinea and raised an alarm there. So that shows that something is amiss. And that thing that is amiss is that there is oil theft. And so all the things that the government is doing in terms of expanding security response, all the things that NNPC Limited is doing in terms of getting private hands to assist, all of those things should be brought together, and hopefully moving forward, we'll be able to reduce oil theft to the barest minimum.
Okay, Professor Akintenwa, Professor Awurawo. Let's take this final topic. Former Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev, who launched drastic reforms that helped to end the Cold War and precipitated the breakup of the Soviet Union, was buried yesterday after a farewell ceremony attended by thousands of mourners, but snubbed by Russian President Vladimir Putin. On Thursday, Putin privately laid flowers at Gorbachev's coffin at a Moscow hospital where he died. The Kremlin said the president's busy schedule will prevent him from attending the funeral. Asked what specific business will keep Putin busy on Saturday, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov told reporters that the president will have a series of working meetings, an international phone call, and needs to prepare for a business forum in Russia's Far East, where he is scheduled to attend an event next week. Gorbachev, who died Tuesday at the age of 91, was buried at Moscow's Novodevichy Cemetery next to his wife Raisa, following a farewell ceremony at the Pillar Hall of the House of the Commons, an opulent 18th century mansion near the Kremlin that has served as the venue for state funerals since Soviet times. But of course, Gorbachev did not get a state funeral. Let me start with you. We have just about 5 minutes to go. Professor Akintenwa, I'll come to you first, and then let's have enough time for Professor Awurawo to also make his contribution.
I think that Putin's absence raises the issue of recognition from which Nigerian leaders and governments can learn. In this case, I would say it is not totally an affair of non-state burial, where, for instance, the preliminary activities took place. It is still in a place reserved for Soviet leaders. But the mere fact that Putin refused to go to attend, but opted to give a bouquet of flowers to still honor him, but not where to be, raises the issue of recognition for us in Nigeria. In Nigeria, we normally honor looters, people who embezzle. We name barracks after people who we admit have looted public treasury. Now, Putin is saying that if you are not with me, you are against me, like Jesus Christ said in the Bible. If, for instance, you broke the tradition with a glasnost and perestroika, against which Putin is, acting, now trying to restore the former Soviet empire, that means that the two of them are not on the same page. This is how we must understand the attitude. Putin is against Gorbachev, and in this case, he does not want to be seen to be honoring somebody against whom he is. So I think that for us in Nigeria, if you are a thief, do not honor. If you are a thief, if you die, don't go there.
Well, Professor Awurawo, I'd like to have your take on this subject, briefly as you can make it. Professor Awurawo.
Gorbachev was a child of his age. Gorbachev came into the leadership of the defunct USSR at a time that the country or the empire was facing extensive economic crisis. Indeed, when Konstantin Chernenko before him and Yuri Andropov still before Chernenko led the Soviet Union, the country already had intense economic issues. And the component parts of the country, were already agitating for independence, for self-determination. So what Gorbachev did was simply to respond to, the issues of his age as they were manifesting. There were people who have blamed him for presiding over the crumbling of the Soviet empire. The empire was already crumbling anyway, and we live in an era of self-determination where forcing people to become part of a particular state is no longer attractive. People have to determine whether they want to be part of a particular state. So Gorbachev, to me, is a hero who simply listened to and responded to issues as they developed during his time. Regarding the failure of Putin to attend, well, Putin has his own, his wish, he has his own position, and of course, his own ideology and vision for the USSR or for Russia, of course, was dramatically opposed to that of Gorbachev, so one can understand. But if you put all these things on the table, I would say Gorbachev was a child of his age who responded effectively to the issues as he met them and presided over a peaceful dissolution of the Soviet empire. And of course, everybody was fine in the aftermath, even though some people would say that, it was the West that benefited. But given the challenges that Soviet Union faced during Gorbachev's time, I think he did the right thing, and he should have been given state burial rather than how quietly he was buried yesterday.
Well, Mikhail Gorbachev, a very controversial figure in the history of the Soviet Union and subsequently Russia. Many Russians thought that he downgraded their country, brought down the country, and that he was a friend of the West. So he's much loved in the West. He's much hated in the East, where it is believed that he brought down the prestige and the influence and the stature of the Soviet Union in global politics. But all of that is over now. He's dead and gone. But he will also be remembered for how, his reforms reverberated around the world. Thank you very much, Professor Akintenwa. Thank you very much, Professor David Awurawo. You've been watching This Day Live, the Sunday talk show, here on Arise News. I'm Ruben Abate. From our entire team here in Lagos, it's bye for now, and thank you very much for watching. We'll see you again next week. Bye for now. Thank you.